Morning, everybody. It's so lovely to see so many of you here, and thank you for joining us for another conversation for our fresh look at. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that people are never broken. They don't need fixing, but sometimes we forget about that, and sometimes that can be quite a big concept as well, because lots of times we sort of grow up and are culturally sort of or led to believe that actually if you've got a problem or if there's something that we automatically assume there's something inherently wrong with us. And I think I sometimes see it quite a lot in my own experience with, I suppose, going back to sort of depression, like depression often, okay, well, I'm depressed, I feel sad, I need to be fixed, I need to look for solutions so I don't feel this way. Or where I often get tripped up with is actually looking at my children and thinking, well, like it's really quick to see if my child's got acting up and having a behavior that, oh my gosh, they just got no respect at all. Like she's just going to grow up and be a complete crazy child, crazy person, because she can't connect with me properly. I can't connect with her. And I go all the way like, okay, well, how am I going to fix that? What strategies can I put in place to manage her behavior? And I've noticed since coming to this sort of understanding and conversation is that the more I try and feel like I've got to fix her, the further away from connecting I actually get. And when I do manage to remember that actually she doesn't need fixing, she's beautiful and whole and amazing as she is, that comes through and the behavior somehow just melts away. And it always astounds me because I forget it so often. And I just wondered, Dave, have you got any? I know we've talked and you might have something to share on this.
Yeah, I think as parents, when we see our children in some sort of psychological pain, we suffered with anxiety badly. And as a parent, I always used to try and fix it. And when someone's in the throes of anxiety or in the throes of anxious thinking, the last thing they're doing is listening. So you get brought into that and you become a part of that, and it actually gets worse. So when I came across this understanding and I understood more about my state of mind and how I show up and more about his state of mind, I learned how to navigate that. I mean, his anxiety was really bad. He was, it was all to do with food and sickness and germs and things like that. And it was ruling his life. His world was just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So much so he was, opening doors with his cuffs of his jumper. He was, asking for straws. He was checking sell-by dates. It was just constricting him, and it broke my heart. So much so that I caught him drinking hand gel because he thought he had germs in his mouth. That's how bad it got. Now, fortunately for me, this understanding, I don't talk about it at home particularly. Every now and again, I certainly don't preach or anything like that. But through this understanding, I could navigate it and see how he was feeling. And then one day we went out for a meal, which was always really hard work. And we had the meal and we went out the next day, and my son wasn't with us, and his brother asked us, did you notice anything different about Jude yesterday? And I'm like, no, not at all. And he goes, do you notice that he never, got frustrated, got angry with us, he didn't go to the toilet to wash his hands, all of this stuff, and it hadn't even occurred to me. I was like, wow. So what's, you know, I didn't want to broach the subject because I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to bring it back, you know, all that. So I left it. And then at some point I saw him shift into a place where he was really light and really happy. And I knew I could talk to him about it. So I said to him, what, you know, we went for a meal the other day, and all those behaviors that you normally have weren't there. And I just want to know, because obviously those thoughts don't stop. I want to know what's changed. And he said, and I'll never forget it, he said, Dad, I saw it was just my thinking. And that is when I realized that we don't have to be fixed. His wisdom spoke to him when he needed it, at just the right time, at just the right amount. Now, that isn't to say he doesn't still get anxious, but if it was 100%, it's now 20%, 25%, and he can still get caught up in it. But to see that and get the relief from that, you know, it was just like, oh. So that's why getting involved in it never helps, because he will see it for himself when he needs to see it for himself.
That's so powerful, Dave. And like how beautiful. And I'm just wondering, like, I'm assuming, had you kind of had interactions with him before trying to help him deal with it?
Oh God, yeah. I was always
Yeah.
trying to help him deal with it. You don't want to see your child in pain, but me having the understanding and turning up, not trying to fix, and knowing that he will settle in his own time, changed everything. You don't have to try and fix when he's in that state of mind. You just turn up with love and understanding, and that in itself will make him drop out of that. That's where the understanding comes into play. He's fine. He's just lost in anxious thinking. And we know, as the nature of thought, that will pass. He'll drop out of that. And he does. And that's when we speak, you know. But you turn up with love and understanding, it works wonders.
That's so hopeful, isn't it? It's just so hopeful. It takes so much pressure off you feeling like you need to figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, we were at a wit's end. You know, he'd been in therapy and everything. And they were digging in his past and trying to find, you know, where this thing came from. He did it on his own. He just found out on his own. It was, yeah, I don't want to say a miracle, but it was bloody brilliant.
Sandrine, you gonna?
Yeah. Is it because you say you're not talking about it that much at home? So do you want to say, are you saying that you didn't really talk to him about how thoughts work and minds work and all that? Is it just that he realized it because does it touch to the fact that we all know it, we just forgot we knew?
I think,
or do you think, yeah?
I think I probably have mentioned about thoughts and thinking at some point, but you don't know what they're hearing. We don't know what they're hearing, do we? But, you know, he might have really heard that, and it's like a little serum that goes in, and then at some point it comes out, you know. But I think, you know, it's everything. It's how you show up, giving him the space to be able to come out of that himself. I think that in itself is enough. You don't have to really talk about it too much if you show up differently. Because as soon as I showed up differently, things started to change for him.
So,
I think
so
it's
Dave,
also. Oh, sorry.
are you saying that in a way then that your attempt to fix him before, your care and concern, but which was expressed through thinking he had a problem and trying to sort that out with therapy and all the rest of it, when you got this understanding, when you started to realize that people weren't broken and then they're not fixing, and you deeply saw that shifted kind of how you were around him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what, in a sense, enabled him to settle down and then his own wisdom to surface. I'm just trying to lay it out. The classic in this situation is, what do I do? And I guess, the doing is a funny doing, because it's a settling down doing, it's a not doing, but there is still, in a sense, you're acknowledging that you had a part to play in what happened for him, which was you were kind of not continuing to rev up the situation and hold that pattern in place that had developed, in some way or other. So it was your settling down that made it easier for him to settle down, and then he could see more about what was going on and let it go. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair description?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's great, David, actually. And in fact, I think, Bronwyn, we've chatted before about a similar instance with my son. And this very wise older teacher had quite a chat to me, and I didn't have this understanding at the time. And my son was starting to have little tics and doing funny things with his hands and pulling his hair. And I was looking on Google, thinking, gosh, he's really got, what's going on in his mind, and he's got this anxiety. The more you look at it and the more you think about it, you're making this into a really big problem. And this really wise teacher, and I remember her saying to me, think things lightly. Think things really lightly. You've got the choice now to take him into therapy, create quite a big thing, but think lightly. And it always stuck. I thought, what, I'm sure this will go. I'm sure. And it did go. It was just like a phase of, and there were things going on at the time that I could have really, and I know, there's different levels of things with children that come and go, but I think about that all the time, the think lightly. And really that's similar to really not doing too much thinking around that, and then he wouldn't do too much thinking about it if we all brought it into the family. And so my daughter used to go, what are you doing? What are you doing, that funny thing with your, and it was like, no, let's just not. So it was like an unspoken thing. I thought, I'll start using this advice from this very wise lady. And I think about it quite often, like, think lightly. And that's it. It was like not fixing and not making a big thing about it. And it was like forgotten about. That stage came and went.
Like so.
Mm-hmm. It still comes back to him sometimes. And I don't know why or what's going on. And again, it's like, let's just, he'll do like a funny walk. or there's something that he'll go through a stage doing. And you just sort of look at it with love and compassion rather than a fear of like, what is this? And I know it's little things, it's not, you know, like some big issues that some children have. It's easy for me to say, but it's just these little things that it's like, I'm going to think lightly about it.
I love what you just said there about looking on it with love and compassion. Otherwise, we're fearful of it. Because we are, aren't we? We're fearful for them.
Yeah. Because, and actually we were on holiday with a friend, and my son, his stage then was he walked with a limp, and we knew there was nothing wrong. This sounds really, and my friend who's a nurse, she was like, there's nothing wrong with him. He's got into the habit of, you know, she knows his personality before of doing these. And another friend was like, well, why is he doing it? Does he want attention? Does he want, you know, there was a long list of things that could have gone with this walk with a limp. And he basically forgot to walk with a limp after a while, because it was us just going, oh, isn't he? He's really lovely. He's got all these funny little ways about him. And we now sort of chuckle to ourselves, well, can you remember when Alex walked with this limp? And he talked about it. I don't really know why. I just really enjoyed doing it. And he would do it all day long, running around the pool, everything. You know, he had it to an art. And so he's a funny boy. He's a lovely boy. But, you know, it's now sort of a family sort of, we go, oh yeah, you know, with affection rather than fear of like what other things are going to come along that he's going to do. And, you know, I think, yeah, there we go.
I love that. Can you hear me? Because I'm echoing. Is that all right? I love that that think lightly thing, because it kind of opens up possibilities, doesn't it, to deal with something in a way that makes sense. So, you know, somebody else thinking lightly about their child limping might think, well, hang on, let's just go and get them checked out, or let's just go and, you know, there's something that doesn't seem quite right, or you know, like when it comes to ourselves, you know, and again, like we always make clear, it's not kind of a prescription, isn't it, that you don't do anything. It's that in that thinking lightly, something occurs to you and you see something clearer, you see something with clarity, and you know.
And don't get me wrong, I sound cruel, like there's something wrong with my leg and I didn't get it checked out. I did know there was nothing wrong.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Through seeing lightly, you knew that, and that's the path you went. And also, you had a conversation with your friend who was a nurse, and you know, you did these things and kind of came to this conclusion that actually it wasn't something to be grabbing onto and being fixed necessarily, and in a way, it kind of resolved itself. And I just love that that's how it works when we do get that clarity of mind and that thinking lightly, is that the next sort of step comes through and we can see things clearer one way or another, isn't it? It's like I mean, we seem to be talking about children, but like with my daughter having sensory issues, you know, I really was, when I see it lightly, it's clear to me that actually putting this in place might help her to manage those better. You know, it's not a case of necessarily, oh, well, she'll figure out how to work it out. It's like, okay, well, right now, where she's at, if I can support her in that way, or not, you know, and it's just, I love that lightness with her. That's just really, really lovely. What a wise teacher, like you say.
Well, I know. In fact, I see her quite often. I always go to say to her, but I never do. I should. But it's in one of my best friend's daughter is self-harming at the moment. And I had to watch what I said, because I wanted to say to her, oh, think lightly about it, you know, but she's very into, there must be a much bigger reason why she's doing this, and I felt, and it's interesting when it's right to say that, and when it's, but I didn't feel it was appropriate to say, oh, this will come and go, it's a stage. And yeah, that's just taking it to the next level a little bit. She's really, you know, obviously it's when you can, is it something more serious? I don't know, or think lightly about it still. Be interesting to know your opinion on that. But I just withheld saying it when she confided in me that you know, her daughter's self-harming. What do you all say about that? Or is it the same? I don't know enough about it, but I just withheld. It didn't feel right, me saying, oh, think lightly, this stage will come and go, and it's just give her love and compassion. I'd say the give love and compassion, but when I started saying that, my best friend said there must be so much more going on for her than this just a phase. So can that, you know, I don't know. I've gone off piste a little bit.
No, I think that's a very relevant question, because there are some problems that look like they need fixing. And like my initial thing was, yeah, that looks like a problem that needs fixing. So has anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think, as we've talked about, first of all, it's really helpful to remember that she doesn't, or he doesn't need fixing, that they're fundamentally okay, and sitting in that place. And then I've worked with a few people who have been, young people who've been self-harming, and it's very easy to get caught up in their anxiety and their upset. And I always imagine in my mind flapping sails. So I grew up sailing quite a lot, and if you kind of just rest the boat and let the sails flap, it makes a crazy noise and everything looks really out of control. And when I'm working with clients and there's a lot of noise that's going on in their mind, I always picture flapping sails. Like the boat is actually absolutely fine. It's not going to go over, the sails are loose, they're not tied up, but it's making crazy noise. And so when I'm working with clients, whether they're self-harming or something else that they're struggling with, I always have in the back of mind the flapping sails, but the boat's fine, they're fine. They're just caught up in believing the thoughts that they're having, and then that's creating a feeling, it's informing a behavior. But underneath that, they're fundamentally fine, and it's still sitting in that, I guess, that grounding of knowing that they have that innate well-being. And if you come with a kind of love and compassion, as you guys have talked about, and listen from that point, you'll hear something that will be helpful to help them navigate through. But I think if you're a parent and your child is self-harming, it's, you know, incredibly upsetting and frightening. And same, I've worked with people with difficult relationships with food, and it's, you know, it can be a really worrying time, but just knowing that they're fundamentally okay and they're just caught up in their thinking, and there's a way to navigate through that, I think can bring a huge amount of relief in that moment.
I love that, Anna, on the boat.
And I think it's really interesting to remember that that's coming from all sides. So like as a parent, we get so caught up in our own flapping sails, that we kind of miss that they've, you know, everybody's just got flapping sails going on, isn't it? And I think like in having conversations with, like Ellie, I'm just thinking about with you, with your friend, you know, understanding that that's what's going on for her and being there for her in that space might...
And actually, yeah, one thing she did say, she said, I know it's not, I've got to stop my sentences starting with, I want you to do this, or I think. And I thought, yeah, that's you know, that's it, because she's very much like, I'll be happy when you're happy, or I, you know, and again, that's going to another thing, but she's like, I need to just, it's about her, how she's feeling, and not my expectations. And that takes a while to come around to that as a parent. I know with my daughter, quite often I'm like, I'm worrying about something, but she's all right. She's all right. But as a parent, you've got these sort of like, oh, that's a bit, you know, if that was me, I would be blah, blah, blah. But actually, she's fine with the fact that something's going on.
I think also there's something around when we want somebody to change, it's also about our insecurity, like, in a way, because we think we're going to be okay if they're different, and then actually, as you're saying, Bon, that's just us in our flappy state of mind. That when you really understand that everybody is sitting in perfect well-being, we don't need anybody else to change for us to be okay. And yeah, I think that's a key part of this as well.
Mhm.
And I love, Dilly, when you talk back with your son about him limping, how he says, "Oh, I just really enjoyed it." It's almost, there was no problem for him. It's, we decided that someone limping was a problem, but like, to him it wasn't.
He'd had it down to a fine art.
No, but and that's the thing is, you know, maybe if we had learned differently, maybe that would be like the coolest thing on earth to be able to do, and everybody would be trying to do. You know, I feel there is a lot of, we've learned that, oh, that's not okay, but, and the fact that you didn't make too much of a big deal of it and really told him that's a problem, I think that must have helped a lot for him not to, yeah, to be able to drop it, sort of thing. Like, yeah, I find that I love this, how we learned a lot of what is right, what is wrong, what is sad, what is difficult, what is a problem or not. And when you said that, with the reaction of your son, I was like, oh my God, yeah, another example of, which, yeah.
That just blew my mind, Sandrine. It's like, how many problems are we just making up?
Yeah, that does, yeah. I think there is so much, and when you start observing that, you're like, wow, how much we've learned to, like, yeah, it's,
And I
and
think
you can re-question everything, and things can be so much softer. Yeah.
and I think it's like a reaction of a parent. I know we keep talking about the parent here, of just to think about something so much that you're creating the problems that aren't there just with thinking, oh, this is linked to that, and he must be doing this limp because he's being bullied, or he's this, or somebody. And actually, I think it might have, looking back, have been a footballer that he really aspired to, limping at his foot. You know, we did, yeah. But again, when you're overthinking, are you then really creating the problem that might go away? It's not if, we all know really that is it. But as a parent, that's your natural state, is to just think, oh gosh, what's that? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Is it because this happened to them? Is it that? And you know, and I could see it when my children were little, and I'd be all day thinking something was going to go on at school for my daughter, and she'd go home, she'd forgot, you know, but I'd overthought it into a big problem. And yeah, and the same at work. Really.
That's it, but don't we do that for things we care about, isn't it? We take it upon ourselves that it must be down to us in some way to like, it must be I think we sort of we take it upon ourselves that we have some sort of a role to play in ensuring that everybody else is okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
We think we've got to make everybody else okay. And when we realize that that's coming from our own insecure thinking, and we know that actually everybody else is okay, it just frees that up so nicely. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were done or not. And this pressure that you kind of feel, oh, if I don't do something, they're going to think I don't look after my kids, or that I don't care, or that and actually, No, that's the thing. It doesn't mean that. Not because you get all the best therapists and whatever that you don't care or you don't love your child, you know?
And you're right, Sanjina. See, when I was talking to you about the bad foot, I was like, oh gosh, are you all going to think I neglect my child from not?
But that's why when you said that, you see that you saw that.
I was out loud.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. And you see, it's like how much, again, you put pressure on yourself, and in the end, you could have acted on that and took him to see someone because you thought that's what people wanted you to do, but inside you knew you had nothing to do. And sometimes, I find that really.
I see it time and time again the opposite way as well, you know, so this is it. It's not a one size fits all. It's going with what you get, what you feel. So I see lots of people saying, oh, you're overreacting. And a parent's like, no, I know there's something. And they will go to that specialist and get whatever they need. You know what I mean? So it can work the same ways. It's just going back to that clarity of mind. What you need to do will trusting a bit more, trusting ourselves.
Yeah, but it's like you could tell it was coming from a different place when it was saying, oh, I knew it was fine. And then you could tell she had the thought coming, oh, you must think I'm a bad mom, sort of thing. I wasn't. And it was very different. Yeah. Sorry, Anna.
No, I was just going to say that clarity of mind always comes with a different feeling. Like Bron was saying, I think when it occurs to you, you need to take your child to a specialist, and that it comes with a different feeling. Like you just kind of, there's an ease and clarity about it as opposed to the kind of anxious feeling. I think it's a different feeling when you tap into that deeper wisdom, that all kind of knowing of this is the thing that I need to do. It comes with a different feeling.
Going back to your boat, that feelings come not on the flapping of the boat, but actually, you know, there's actually a bit more to this now. You've thought sensibly about it. I don't know if that's a good phrase, thought sensibly, but it's come to you, you know, rather than just the flapping of all his legs. It's something bigger here.
Yeah, it's like it's not the noise of the flapping sails, but it's.
I like that.
Maybe it's the hum of the boat when it's going along the water.
Getting too technical for me there. It's like, what part of the body is that?
The boat pote. The fixed bit stuck to the water. Oh, no, that's been lovely. Has anybody got anything? I can't believe how quickly half an hour goes. Has anybody got anything to add before we finish? No? Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for another fab conversation. And hope you all have a lovely weekend. And thank you for listening, to those of you who've listened and watched. We're also, just before we go, we're looking at offering some free coaching sessions. So if you're listening to this and you think that you might like to talk to one of us one-on-one, then send us an email, get in touch, and we can set that up. So we're quite excited to be offering that as well. So thank you very much, and bye everybody.